everyone. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Chris, and I'm going to tell you a story. So last night I was cruising the internet looking up anything dogmen, werewolves, or anything of the like that I could get my hands on, and I happened to stumble across this article on livescience.com. The title of the article is Werewolves, Lore, Legend, and Lycanthropy by Benjamin Radford, Live Science contributor, October 30th, 2012. So obviously, while this might be a little bit dated, it's still very relevant to what we are discussing and looking to learn more about. So let's just jump right into this story. Werewolves, literally man-wolves, are shape-shifting creatures with unusual speed, strength, reflexes, and senses. They can be found in countless books, films, and television shows, from the horror classics, The Wolfman, to the Twilight series and Underworld series. The werewolves often play second fiddle to vampires and zombies in terms of pop culture man-monsters. They have a long and rich history. Creating werewolves. Traditionally, there were several ways that a person could become a werewolf. In her book, Giants, Monsters, and Dragons, folklorist Carol Rose notes that in ancient Greece, it was believed that a person could be transformed by eating the meat of a wolf that had been mixed with that of a human, and that the condition was irreversible. Centuries later, other methods were said to create werewolves, including being cursed or by being conceived under a new moon, or even eating certain herbs, or by sleeping under the full moon on a Friday night, or by drinking water that has been touched by a wolf. It was also widely believed that werewolves could dress in a special protective wolf skin, though they had to remove it by daybreak and hide it. If the magical pelt was found and taken from the werewolf in human form, he or she could be killed. A similar theme appears in the Scottish and Irish folklore of the Silkies, creatures who spend their lives in the cold ocean as seals, but can change into human form by shedding their pelts. If they do so, they must hide their pelts, for if they are found, they can't change back into seals and must live on land with the fishermen who possess their skin. Though the full moon was originally only one of many possible causes of lycanthropy, it was the one that stuck in the public's mind. Today, many people still associate the moon with werewolves and madness. Some who work in police and emergency and medical services have anecdotally claimed that full moon nights are busier, crazier, and far more dangerous than other nights. This perception may be rooted more in psychology and imagination than reality. Carefully controlled studies have not found good evidence supporting this idea. Furthermore, there is no known mechanism by which the moon would somehow influence a person's mind to make him or her more dangerous, except of course for their own imagination and expectations. Real werewolves. Today, werewolves are known to be mythical creatures found in fiction instead of lurking in the dark woods, but that was not always the case. Not so long ago, belief in werewolves was common. Overall, there was little difference between the killings and activities of wolves and werewolves. Both would hunt at night, attacking sheep or livestock, and sometimes humans. The main difference was, of course, that the werewolves changed into human form at some point. There are several medical conditions that can mimic the appearance of werewolf and may have contributed to early beliefs in the literal existence of the creatures. One is hypertrichosis, which creates unusually long hair on the face and body. A second condition, porphyria, is characterized by extreme sensitivity to light, thus encouraging its victims to only go out at night, seizures, anxiety, and other symptoms. Neither of these rare conditions turns anyone into a werewolf, of course, but centuries ago, when belief in witches, vampires, and magic was common, it didn't take much to spawn werewolf stories. Clinical lycanthropy is a recognized medical condition in which a person believes himself or herself to be an animal, and indeed there are rare cases where people have claimed to be werewolves. For example, in 1589, a German man named Peter Stube claimed to own a belt of wolf skin that allowed him to change into a wolf. His body would bend into a lupine form. His teeth would multiply in his mouth, and he craved human blood. Stube claimed to have killed at least a dozen people over 25 years, though his confession was made under difficult circumstances after prolonged torture, including chunks of his flesh being ripped out with heated pincers and his limbs being crushed with stones. He was decapitated on Halloween 1589, and his headless body burned at the stake. There was no real evidence of his crimes other than his confession, and it seems likely that Stube was mentally ill and delusional. Stube was far from alone in the Middle Ages. Werewolves were thought to mostly be created by witches, and the two became closely associated just as tens of thousands of accused witches were put to death, usually in gruesome circumstances and sadistic ways. Tens of thousands of accused werewolves were similarly dispatched. Because lycanthropy was seen as a curse, werewolves were often thought of as victims as much as villains. The transformation from man to wolf was said to be torturous. Recall such scenes in the film An American Werewolf in London, and many sought cures for real and imagined symptoms. Traditionally, there are three principal ways in which werewolf can be scourged of his demons, writes Ian Woodward in The Werewolf Delusions. He may be cured medicinally and surgically. He may be exorcised, and the most drastic, he may be shot with a special bullet, typically a silver bullet. When the medicinal and surgical cures were attempted, they involved lots of bloodletting, vomiting, and vinegar drinking. In fact, Woodward notes, so severe, so brutal were the cures advocated by early medical practitioners that not surprisingly a great many werewolf patients died by the hands of those who promised them salvation. While werewolves are the best known shapeshifters, they are not the only were animals said to exist around the world. Others include were foxes, dogs, tigers, snakes, hares, werebears, and even were-crocodiles. Of course, wolves are more threatening than dogs and foxes. There's a reason why most werewolf films are scary, and Wallace and Gromit, The Curse of the Were-Rabbit, was a comedy. Like vampires, werewolves have been around a millennia, and nothing short of a silver bullet is likely to stop it from being around a millennia more. So that's the end of the article. I hope you found it interesting. I know certain parts of it I really found very interesting to correlate with the pelts that they used in the Middle Ages, reportedly, and what we hear of today, as sometimes these dogmen are seen wearing, and some other information in this article was pretty interesting to me, so I hope you found it interesting as well, if you did listen all the way through, that is. And I thank you for your time. I hope you have a blessed day, and take care. Bye-bye.